In 1888, Alfred Nobel woke one morning and read his own obituary in the newspaper. It had been a mistake, of course. Alfred's brother had died, Ludwig, not Alfred himself. But there it was, in black and white. The merchant of death is dead. Nobel, the inventor of dynamite, was confronted suddenly by the way the world would remember him, and he didn't like it. He decided right then and there to rewrite his legacy. And today, we remember Alfred Nobel not for dynamite, but for peace. Most of us don't get to read our own obituaries ahead of time, but we all want to know, how will we be remembered? And more importantly, what can we do about it while we're still kicking around? I'm Pete Wright, and this is Headstone, a show about the human legacy and what we leave behind. These are not the stories that people write about us after we're gone. For our purposes on this show, that's artifice. I want to learn about the stories we intentionally create every day through our decisions, our actions, and cemented in our deepest values. And so here we are, episode 1. Every show's got one. And I am over the moon that on this first episode, I get to talk to someone who thinks a lot about the stories we tell and the stories we live. Carrie Fox is the founder and CEO of Mission Partners, a strategic communications firm dedicated to helping nonprofits and socially responsible businesses make meaningful, lasting change. She spent her career thinking deeply about how words and actions shape the world around us. She calls it the more than words approach, an idea that we're defined less by what we say and more by what we do. Carrie's life is a testament to intentional living, as I have observed her. She's a communicator, a strategist, a mother, and an author. And as far as I can tell, she's someone actively building a legacy that aligns closely with her values: justice, equity, authenticity. Today, we'll talk about her journey, the defining moments, the doubts, the tough decisions, and we'll explore a question that touches all of us. How do we live lives that truly reflect how we wish to be remembered? So, this is Headstone. I'm glad you're here. All right, Carrie.
Can I put that on my headstone? Can you just email that to me?
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's so sweet.
So grateful that you are here, my friend. I am honored to call you a friend. We have worked together for some years now, and I think are producing some good things we'll talk about later. I would like to start talking about you as a kid. Like, when you think back to your experience as a kid, what did adulthood look like to you as a kid? Did you remember your visions of what adulthood was going to be like?
Oh, man. So I was like the most serious kid you'd imagine. And I don't know if it's because I was a middle child and I was the first daughter. And there's this thing about middle children and first daughters that I probably like check every box on.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Pete, I was like gung-ho for wherever I was going. I was always thinking about what was ahead. I had a hard time, and honestly, I think in some cases I still do, but I had a hard time sitting still as a kid, just like going out and playing. I was always thinking about, how do I get there? To the point, literally, where Pete, I was 14 years old and I had my first resume and I went door to door to area businesses to get a job. I had my first job in an office building, like in an office setting when I was 14 years old.
You know, I don't know. There's a joke in there about something that, like, I would not have predicted it, and yet it absolutely fits my headcanon of you. That's amazing.
Like,
what was the job? What was the job?
Oh my gosh, I worked in an interior design firm, and I remember I went in and Carla Tricanello was incredible, and she became a wonderful mentor to me. I ended up working for her for many years, but I walked in and she set me up on a bar stool and she's like, so what actually should I even ask you? Like, what grade are you in? It's like, I'm in 8th grade. And she put me to work in like the back storage room, and I organized things for her. And honestly, what I didn't realize though, Pete, is she was this incredible woman-run small business that taught me a lot more than, that, oh, look, here I am, a woman-run small business.
Yeah.
More than I ever imagined to learn, that I would learn from her. But yeah, it started early.
That's so Carla Tricanello.
Oh my gosh, I adore her. Yes.
Shout out to Carla Tricanello, wherever you may be. What an incredible gift. So you would have, probably had I even asked you at that time, at 14, are you a driven person? Like, do you think about the future? You were that sort of a cerebral kid from then on, right?
I was always thinking about the future. And in some ways, I wish I didn't, right? I have two incredible siblings who are so funny and full of life and adventurous and run after everything and don't ever need a plan. And somehow everything always works out. And I always needed a plan. That's who I am.
I feel like you're describing what your siblings have been doing. And I can't help but imagine that you at least have some awareness of opportunities lost to not improvising your way through some parts of your life.
I wonder what it would have been like if I didn't take myself so seriously.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned to take myself less seriously. But when I was a kid, I took myself really seriously.
Did that come from your parents?
I don't know. Maybe my dad a bit. My mom, I don't know that she takes herself so seriously. She's always present. She's always been so present. I was just always thinking about where I wanted to go and how I was going to get there.
When did you think for the first time that you had an agenda for how you wanted to get there, right? Right. Because there's this, like, you embody this, like you have a stamp in my headcanon of you, like every step you take leaves a footprint, but that's not from the interior design. You manifest change very intentionally. And I'm wondering when that part started.
Oh, it happens again and again and again. I think it's not that it started. I think it started to become more clear and clear and clear that the actions I took could have an impact and that I wanted to be really thoughtful about those actions. And I can think about moments in high school, in college, becoming a parent, starting a business, that became more and more clear that, wow, if I really focus some energy, I might actually be able to do something, right? And we started to say in those early years of running my first company that small could be big. And we kept saying that small could be big, right? If you're really intentional about what you do, you could leave something really big behind. And that's what we've now at Mission Partners, we always want to do, right? The whole point of this company isn't that it dies with me. The whole point of this company is that it exists far beyond me. So I have to be thinking about that, how I create something that has lasting impact.
Were you like a class president, school president? Did you run for all those things? Tell me about it.
Is that obvious?
Oh, you made that bed. Come on.
So, I wasn't like on debate team, and I wasn't really involved in school politics as a high school student. But when I got to Loyola University in Maryland, the first year, freshman year, I joined student government. I got really involved. There was this really cool older guy named Brian Fox. And it's like, I kind of want to hang out with him. So who now, for people listening who don't know, is my husband. He was 2 years older than I was. So I started a freshman. He was a junior, and he was he was the SGA president, the entire school. I thought, wow, he's a pretty cool guy. I'm going to hang out with him. So I got elected to a class position. And then at the end of my sophomore year, I decided to run for student body president. And Brian was my campaign manager at that point. And I was the first female SGA president at Loyola University.
What year was this?
That was 1998. No, it was 1999.
Unreal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. So yeah, I did that politics thing. And then that's kind of where it ended for me. But
that was it. That was the end of your political aspirations. Yeah. I'm deeply fascinated. Just in preparing for this conversation, I start ruminating on my own history. And I will tell you this. My first girlfriend name was Julie Heffley. She was the daughter of the senator of their congressman of the great state of Colorado.
Ooh.
And we were in kindergarten, and she was assigned a seat right in front of me. And she turned around one day, very early in that year, and said, "My sister has a boyfriend and tells me that I need a boyfriend. I think you're going to be my boyfriend." And I said, "Okay, Carrie, I don't think we ever broke up. I think that it's possible we're still dating." We don't know. I know. See, I think about just the comedy of that story of my it like marks my kindergarten year, and I reflect on it, and I sometimes wonder where is she now? I've got more. I had an incredibly contentious relationship with a woman in college, and only much later did she discover, oh my God, I'm gay. And her entire life changed. What I learned from her is, oh my goodness, there are some areas of our lives where there is just a key. And when we unlock that particular lock with that particular key, it can change the entire center of gravity for our lives. And I find her, she is now an LGBTQ activist and an attorney, a civil rights attorney. And I am like so weirdly proud of that little artifact of my own history.
Oh.
So I tell you that story because I'd like to hear some of yours. Before Brian, do you have memories of your of powerful, instrumental, let's say, social or intimate relationships with people that you reflect on as a piece of you today?
Yeah. I do, but first I'm going to tell you a little funny story that is tied to Brian. Brian is the love of my life. I've known Brian now for more years than I haven't known him, but for many years, Brian was like the guy I would go to and tell about all my relationships because he was my friend. He was like the friend I could rely on. So I'd be like, "Brian, I'm dating this guy and it's not working out. And what should I do?" And he would just listen and listen. And and his buddy Sully was like, "Dude, you got to ask her out. If you don't ask her out, she's never going to know. And she's going to keep talking to you about all of her boyfriends." So the joke goes, it took him about 7 years to eventually ask me out. And I was like,
because he knew before you did.
Oh, way before.
7 years.
Before. 7 years. My mom knew before I knew. Yeah. Like, Carrie, open your eyes. Look who's right in front of you.
Brilliant.
But yeah, gosh, I mean, there's skeletons in the closet. I'm not sure I feel like bringing out right now. But yeah, it's so funny. My sister and I were just going back and we were like Googling our old boyfriends to see where they were and thinking about where our lives would have been if we ended up with certain people.
Yes.
There's one guy who now is like New Jersey's top tattoo artist. Awesome. That could have been me.
Are you? I didn't know you're Jersey. Are you?
Oh, yes. Oh, you can't hear it in my accent anymore?
Not really. I just so associate you with I'm listening for Baltimore.
No, I'm Jersey.
No, okay, Jersey.
But yes, there were. I mean, there were definitely long-term boyfriends in high school and middle school, and
I don't imagine they would keep up with you very well, frankly, at that age. Just hearing how you think about yourself, you must have dated a lot of dopes.
There's a great story in middle school in 6th grade. There was a 6th grade dance, and it was the big deal. Who's going to go together for the 6th grade dance? And it was $1 to buy a dance ticket. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a boy who really wanted to go with me. And mind you, we're in a very Italian part of New Jersey. So many of the names I will share with you will sound a little Italian. So Rocco Nizavaccia really wanted to go to the dance with me. And I wasn't having it. And so he left me a note in my locker, and it was will you go to the dance with me? Yes or no? And it was a checkbox, right? Yes or no. And there was $1 in there. And it said, if you choose no, buy yourself lunch on me. I'm going to buy lunch.
Oh my God. That is, I don't understand what sort of, I can't help but think that's a Tony Soprano, young Tony Soprano story, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, but like sweet stories and,
Yeah.
sweet people that, what's the Ariana Grande song? Like, thank you next, like
Yes. Yeah.
everybody had an impact on me in one way or the other, but, no one really stuck until
Until
Brian
college.
Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. You got some crazy varied gigs
Mm,
after Loyola, right?
mm.
What are you doing with? I didn't even know you were a baseball. Are you a baseball fan?
Oh my gosh. So, no, I didn't know a thing in the world about baseball. And so when I was in college, SGA president, one of my
Hmm.
big initiatives was
Hmm.
getting people out to go to the basketball games and the athletic events and building up school spirit. And the athletic director at the time was really good friends with Cal Ripken. And so Cal was still playing baseball at the time. And Cal called uh, Mr. Boylan and said, I'm looking for like an upstart senior who's interested in joining my operation. I'm starting this nonprofit. And Joe Boylan said, oh, call Carrie Fox. So I get a call.
Hmm.
I'm like, hi, it was actually a man named Scott who worked for Cal. He said, I'm hiring this position and I'd love to have you come in and interview. And so I was like, okay, this sounds cool. Let me go in and interview. I was a junior. They didn't know that. I went in, I interviewed for the job. They gave it to me pretty easily. I don't know why. But I think it was because I didn't know anything about baseball and I wasn't fazed by Cal Ripken Jr. I was just like, okay, I know communications. I'm studying these things. I can help you. And anyway, I got the
I
job
sort of
full
feel
time.
like maybe it's because you wouldn't let them leave until they said yes at this point.
So I started working for Cal when I was, it started when I was a senior in high school. I'm sorry, a senior in college. I took classes at night and I worked for him during the day. So I
Yeah.
started my career very early before I graduated college.
Practically 14.
Practically. I mean, by then,
Unbelievable. It's hard I mean, our experience is so different. I was tripping over my own feet at that point, like in my life, like no clue,
I
no
kind of
clue
wish
what I
I
was going
was
to do.
too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The liberty that comes from complete ignorance about your future.
I mean, Pete, I'm 46 and I'm ready to retire. I'm like, why
Yeah.
isn't it time yet?
So done. At what point in this experience, you start with Ripken, you're doing communications and public affairs. At what point do you say to yourself, someday I'm going to own my own thing? Someday I feel like
Oh,
the only way I'm going to make the difference I want to make is to do my own thing.
you know what's so funny? It is that's the one thing I didn't plan.
Mm.
Completely unexpected. So I had left Ripken Baseball after a few years. I was working in an incredible public affairs agency in DC. I was young. I was 23 years old. And I had gotten engaged to Brian Fox and we
Hmm.
were living in DC and he both engaged or proposed and then told me he had been offered a job, a really cool job in Connecticut and wondered if we would be willing to move to Connecticut. So we ended up moving and that's ultimately where we got married and lived for the
Hmm.
first few years. But I went into my job, I went into talk with Don Foley at Prism Public Affairs and said, this is super exciting. I have a ring on my finger and we're going to move to Connecticut. And he said, this is amazing and we're going to support you, but you can't keep a full-time job because we don't have operations in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
I was like, uh-oh. And he said, but how about if you freelance? How about if we contract with you and we'll give you some work and we'll help you land softly? I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I can keep working with these people that I love and I can keep learning. And literally, Pete, that became the beginnings of my agency. I didn't know I was starting a company until a company had been started.
So much of your work is so intentional. It surprises me that the intention behind the company was vapor.
Totally. Totally. I just
Yeah.
walked into it and thought, wow, like this could be something. Like this is fun.
Yeah.
This is kind of fun.
Are you in a position where you feel like you're meant to be a leader of this agency? Is that something that fit you sort of hand to glove?
Now I do.
What did it take to get there?
There is this great book by Arthur Brooks that I wish I could remember the name of it right now. But it's about the stages of life that we go through, and how we get to a certain stage in life and wisdom starts to unfold. Almost when you don't expect it, you start to feel like things are making a little more sense.
Mm-hmm.
I suddenly start to feel that about some things. And maybe it's because I've now been doing communications for so long and I've been running this company for so long that I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. There's no trepidation, there's no anxiety, there's no trying to prove that I'm someone. And I think that's probably what I was trying to do for most of my life, trying to prove that I mattered or prove that I knew something or
that you deserve to be wherever you are.
Yeah. Now I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Describing the perils of imposter syndrome, right? And it's funny where that strikes. Like I think about my own experience, I feel like I'm in sort of a similar place to you. Like we've been doing this stuff for a long time, and there's less of a question of, do I deserve to be here? Just experience sort of speaks for itself. You don't have to do a whole lot because you have a body of work, and yet sometimes you run into a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
How aware are you of your blind spots right now?
I try to be very aware of them. I try to keep my eyes really open to what I don't know. And last weekend, we took a little family trip to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Brian lived there for a couple of years as a kid, and we wanted to take our daughters back and show them where he lived. And on that trip, Kate, my 11-year-old, wanted to go on a surfing lesson. I'm like, okay, I'll go with you on a surfing lesson. That sounds fun. I'm pretty sure I'm going to totally fail at this, but I'll do that. Blind spot, maybe. I don't know. I was underwater, upside down, with more water on my nose than I've ever had in my whole life. Like it was way harder than I thought, and I knew it was going to be hard. As she glides on the surfboard,
it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, but I don't know. I try to. I don't mind anymore doing things that I don't know or getting into a conversation where I don't even understand what's going on. I kind of enjoy it now.
Yeah, there's a certain, again, talking about that sort of liberty, the liberation of experience that comes from no longer having to be afraid to say, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know whose fault it is. It could be you, could be me, but we need to come to center on this and not feel shame about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about this more than words thing. That's your jam.
That's
it's written. Jam. It's everywhere. What is it? What does that mean to you beyond a tagline? Where did that come from? Was that a 14-year-old thing?
What was that thing? More than words. At some point, I had a pretty big realization that I was perceived as a communications professional, and there's a lot more to communications than the words that we use. Right? There's a lot more than what we write, than what we say. There's a lot more that matters in how we are going to lead a company or lead a team or lead a family, honestly, right? And I think I wanted to explore that. And so again, it was one of those things I didn't set out with an agenda. I had literally no idea where that Finding the Words series was going to go when I sat down, but I felt like I had something to say and I literally wanted to let it play out in real time, right? It was like, open the book and see what comes out. And honestly, it didn't even matter if nobody read it. I just kind of wanted to do it and see what it would do for me as a writer. And I love it, Pete. I wake up ridiculously early on Tuesday mornings to write it. And I love it. I totally love it.
All of that we've already talked about. We've talked about old boyfriends and girlfriends. We've talked about first jobs. We talked about, being driven at 14. This was all a setup. It's all a sham to get to what I really want to talk about, which is you and I both lost our dads in recent years. And if there was anything that could knock me off my feet, like that, I don't know what it is. It hit me as such an extraordinary existential surprise that experience. And you and I have reflected just briefly together since you lost your dad. And I'm curious about your experience with his passing and how that experience has been internalized for you.
I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, and yet the experience of being with him at the end of his life was honestly, I think, the greatest gift he ever gave me. To let me be in that place with him and see him be vulnerable because he had no other choice. And then to have the opportunity to actually learn who he was after he passed away, because I didn't actually know who he was when he was alive.
What's that a function of?
So the feeling of me trying to prove that I was worth something and run after things, right? Like, we learn by what we see and what we admire, and we learn by what we see and what we don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot in my dad that I was trying to run away from. There was a lot from my dad that I was trying to be the opposite of. I've said since the day my kids were born, I'm going to parent a way that I wasn't parented by my dad. And yet, for all the years that he was here, I think what I learned afterwards is he did the best he could. And I didn't often give him credit that it was probably the best he could. But I have learned to learn more about him after he died, versus what I wish I could have learned from him when he was here.
Encapsulate some of those messages. And I think I'm seeing that because I see so much after my dad passed. I almost didn't know who I was until he passed. And I realized, oh my God, I am my dad in so many ways that I don't think I was able to really see until he was gone, until we had the last conversation that we had. And I was not able to be there with him because it was COVID, and so I couldn't be bedside. And so we were on the phone, and the last words he wanted to say to me were, make sure you get my pension straightened out from the state so mom has income. And I said, Dad, you're done, man. You're done with that. I get to carry that now. Mom and I are going to handle that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. And it was that experience of feeling like, oh, you just chased a monster away, a thing that he no longer has to be burdened by. And in that moment, I realized that's what he would have said to me. Like, we're no longer father and son. We're just these two genetic clones, slightly skewed on the timeline. That was a pretty significant awakening for me. And it just encapsulates my experience of like seeking now when I want to learn about who he was. The fact that, we learned so much about his brain and why he was a journalist, and how his ADHD impacted the way he worked undiagnosed. And all of those things have brought us a picture of my life almost more than his. And I'm curious if any of that resonates with you.
All of it does. All of it does. How did you learn about him after he passed away?
I imagine it's the same as your experience, right? I mean, as soon as it happens, people come out of the woodwork, and they all have incredible stories. So it all started with the sort of obituary process of people coming to me and saying, I want to get my say in this. Your dad is, this happened more than once. I didn't even know this was a saying where people say, oh, like, I have a personal Mount Rushmore. There are people who came to me and said, your dad is on my Mount Rushmore. I've never heard that saying. Is that a saying?
I don't know. I've never heard that saying either.
I kind of like it. And the fact that my dad's represented, of course, he's on my Mount Rushmore. I've never thought of anybody else, but that was a pretty special thing because he had so many, you were talking about phases. When you look at the different phases and the people he impacted at each phase, the people who found him to be someone of great integrity and trust and passion and influence and concern. He was a humanitarian. These are things I never got to see because they erupted from him after I went away to school and moved abroad and did my thing. And so I didn't have any context for who he was apart from talking to him on the phone every weekend, you know?
When you heard it, did you believe it? You're like, oh, that makes sense. Or did it seem like it was disconnected from the person you knew?
Both. And I felt angry. I was angry that I didn't get all of that guy. I got tastes of that guy. I got trips, but I didn't get to live with and be with that guy. And I felt betrayed by fate. That's a great question. I don't think I've ever said that way.
Has that changed? That's all right. It's my show now, Pete.
Yeah, I know. Look at what you did. That's just talking about betrayal. Has it changed?
How you parent?
Don't you find that you talk to your kids with like a different head voice with this experience? Yeah.
Fully.
I feel like I'm much more honest with my kids.
Me too.
How so?
Me too. I let them into things I probably wouldn't have. They see and know who I am. I mean, I literally write it every week, and often my girls will read what I write, right? So they're literally seeing my inner thoughts.
Yeah.
In a way that I feel like I want them to. I want their vision of me and their memories of me to be the same. Because my experience, like you, is I knew my dad, and then I sat at his funeral and I listened to people and I thought, I don't have any idea who they're talking about. And I don't want that. I want to match. I want the perception of me and the reality of me to match.
I think that's a really important awareness. And it actually is the, not just the question we ask of our kids, but the question we ask of ourselves. And I say that knowing that my dad did not have that same awareness. He came from a family of oil people who had extraordinary wealth and lost it all because markets and things happened and alcoholism and all of that stuff he had as his baggage. And I don't think he had a sense of how he would be remembered versus how he wanted to be remembered. I don't think he was of even a generation where that mattered to him. We would have had a very different conversation on this very podcast, Dad and I, because he was not wired that way.
Right.
And it is thanks to his death that I've been asking myself that very question. Does the way I live my life match the way I want to be remembered?
You're making me think, Pete, that there is something that's almost maybe a privilege in the roles that we're in, that both your dad and mine seem to have a few things in common, that maybe they were focused more on survival than they could have been focused on legacy. And here we are talking about legacy. Not everybody gets that privilege to be able to look out and think about that.
And not everybody wants to, not everybody wants to. And I think that might be the privilege in and of itself, right? That we have a sense to be able to talk about legacy, but also we have a chance to define it, and we want to take that choice to define it.
I had this really strong urge over this past holiday break to document and put on a wall in my home as many generations of my family and Brian's family as I could, because as we are
tied with like yarn, like a murder board. Is that how you're doing it?
Kind of, yeah, a little bit. As we're sitting here talking about what's ahead, right? I felt this urge to make sure that my daughters knew their roots and where they came from and who they came from, and literally have pictures to paint with the names that they were born with, right? Sophia Lindsay, Lindsay was my grandmother's maiden name, Dorothy Lindsay. So Sophia carries my maternal grandmother's name. Kate Cassidy carries Brian's maternal grandmother's name, Helen Cassidy. Yet for years, neither of them had seen a photo of those women. So I went back literally as far back as I could. We went back 5 generations, and we now have, from the base of our stairs all the way to the top of our stairs, our great grandparents as children, and then moving all the way up to present day.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Do you come from a family of reunion goers? Are you big potluck and potato salad and hoagie picnic family?
There's no potluck and potato salad, but there is plenty of pasta and, anything you can find that's on the Italian menu. We'll eat plenty of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we used to, when I was a kid, get together more. Family is spread out. Unfortunately, a lot of family has passed on, but I would say we are still pretty well connected. Particularly my siblings and cousins are still connected. Brian has a different story, right? He has, let me just think for a minute, no cousins. His one has passed away. Wow. So yeah, it like changes the experience, which is maybe why I want to make sure my children feel connected to the family they have.
Your experience with your dad, did it change the way you think about your role for others that work with you?
Oh my gosh. 100%. I like to think I've always been pretty darn caring and flexible, but going through an experience like that like gets you at your core changes for me how I want to show up for other people when they are going through difficult moments. And being there and remembering, and I have dates on my calendar on when colleagues, the date of death of colleagues' parents, and I send flowers on those days. There's a kind of memory that I want to keep alive with them. And your trailer, I love, because you talk about the last moment someone's name is mentioned, right? That last moment, and then what happens. And so, I don't know. I hope I can contribute to keeping certain names alive, even if I've never met them.
Yeah. That's the thing. Even if I haven't gotten out the pictures, that is the thing that I've taken from my experience too. It's this idea that the people I work with, and I was reflecting on it because, we had this experience where you were confronted with someone who works with you who had an emergency, and how fast you reacted with love and get the hell out, go do what you need to do, is a thing that I don't know comes naturally. I don't think that kind of empathy comes instinctively to a lot of people. I mean, maybe I'm underestimating great swaths of the populace, but I do think that there's learning that comes through explicit experiences of grief.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is nothing like losing a parent or a loved one, really, of any sort, but someone, whether you feel like you knew them or not, to go through that experience, it changes us. And I think it reminds us that we are all mortals, and there's an expiration date, unfortunately. Hopefully it's far out. Do you know what? Brian and I were doing this conversation recently with our financial planners, and they talk about like planning out to retirement, whatever. And they talk about it as an expiration date. We're like, don't you mean death?
Yeah. Oh my God.
We don't use that phrase.
There's that movie. I can't think of it's Justin Timberlake is in this movie, and that's right. I'm going there. He's in this movie, and they have these barcodes on their arms that are counting down to when they'll die.
Oh, geez.
And there is currency, like you can trade time for people. Out of time, about time. It's not about time. Out of time, maybe out of time. And so you can use it to increase your life by trading, stuff, right? And so some people live a very long time and some people really don't. Some people gamble with their time and lose and die very early. That has become a weird, like, back of mind nightmare metaphor for like the choices that I make. Like, should I be eating this hamburger right now? What would that do to my arm barcode? The expiration dates are horrifying. They're horrifying.
I know.
Why do they do that to us?
I don't know.
At some point, you and Brian made a choice that you're going to work together. He's now works for Mission Partners. He always worked for Mission Partners?
No, he hadn't actually. And again, that's one of those moments that like wasn't all that intentional, but worked out. So I was running a company called Fox Communications, and we were a few years into marriage and we wanted to start a family. And I thought, how in the world am I going to ever leave and go on maternity leave? I have a small company. I don't have anyone who could take over for me for that time. So what do I do? And Brian had this great thought. He was at the time working at AARP, and he said, what if I went to them and I asked if I could become a contractor, and I joined Fox Communications and I brought them on as a client. Let's just see if they would go for it. And he did. He pitched them on the idea of becoming a contractor. He joined Fox Communications. He came on as managing director. He brought AARP, so he brought some money with him. And then the plan was that he would then cover for me so that I could...
Well, you could take maternity
take time.
leave. Yeah.
Right. And then like Carrie Fox jumps back in that in order to prepare. So once I got pregnant and I was preparing to leave, we would do drills in the office on what happens when Carrie goes into labor.
Oh my God. Of course you did.
We would call them birthquake drills. We'd be like, okay, we're in a meeting. Carrie has gone into labor. The server shuts down. And what are we going to do? Who's going to act? I was like, oh my gosh, Pete, like enough already with the planning.
That is outstanding.
It was actually very funny.
Oh my God, that's so funny. It's not that I don't get, my wife and I, Kira, we're always talking about we should work on a project together or start a podcast or do something together, and just nothing has ever really lined up. And I am curious how your marriage has survived.
Really well, actually. Yeah. So we worked together for several years at Fox. He left and did something else. I wrapped up Fox and I started Mission Partners, and I did that without him. And then a few years went by and there was an opportunity for him to join.
Come back in.
So he did. And it's seamless. Honestly, I'm sitting in an upstairs bedroom and he sits downstairs below me in the office, and we can hear each other through the floorboards. And there's like, I don't know, we work on some projects together, but we're not together all the time. We're not working on things all the time together. It's a bit of divide and conquer. We actually have very different brains, right? Like I am the creative one. He's the numbers one. He's like the traditional marketer. I kind of don't know what I'm going to do, but I feel my way through this and I think I'm going to be able to figure it out. So I don't know. It works. It works out.
Your communications experience. I want to transition to the purpose of our conversation here. Tell me how you position this conversation around legacy when we're talking about such trying times that we're living in right now, around how we're going to be remembered. You're dealing with public figures, you're dealing with organizations. All of these bodies have reputation, and they're all going to be remembered either as the merchant of death or as the originator of the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
And we are in an incredibly complicated market for attention and signal. And I'd like to know how you have those conversations.
Yeah. So at Mission Partners, we live really clearly through our values. I have my values literally on my desk and I look at them every day. And it's what I often remind our clients is know what you value, know what you stand for, and be willing to make decisions through that lens, not through what's going to be best in this moment for my business, but what's going to be best long-term based on what you stand for and what you're trying to achieve in the world. And that can be really hard, right? That requires some very difficult decisions that sometimes are not going to benefit the business owner. But if you really care about people first and you really care about excellence and integrity, you're going to have to make some decisions that require you to do some things that are maybe a little hard on you. So I think it says a lot about a person, a company, an organization when they are willing to do everything firmly through those values. And every once in a while, check and see if those values still hold, right? It's okay that values actually evolve and change over time too. But having something that you are willing to be grounded in and literally live as your North Star through life, I just think it says a lot about integrity and about your commitment to what you stand for, right? Like, do what you say you're going to do.
Well, every now and again, somebody's got to have a Big Mac. You know what I mean? Like you have your your values written up on the wall. Like, what is it that keeps you, that reinforces your values for you personally? Like, what is your Big Mac? Sometimes you think, okay, do I really mean all this stuff? How do you keep it centered?
Yeah. Honestly, I think looking at my kids, I think stepping out of this office and seeing Kate waiting for me or seeing Sophie waiting for me and knowing that it comes back to my dad, right? Like, I want to do what I say I'm going to do. I want to do right by them. I want to do right by the people who are in my life. I want to do maybe more than right. I want to do good and well and be trusted and maybe give a little extra here and there and make people feel like the world maybe isn't as dark and dire as it can be. And maybe that'll rub off and have other people feel like they can do a little more too.
Then what's your vice? Everybody's got one. Their vice of choice.
Like chocolate?
Is it really that simple?
Like any kind of dessert ever?
Any dessert ever?
Turning everything off and just sitting down and reading a book or watching a cooking show and like turning the world off around me. At the end of every day, Pete, pretty much around the same time every day, I unplug, I walk away, I shut that door, and I do not come back until the next day. And I go downstairs and I make dinner. Dinner is like the thing that I love. I feel really strongly like as a family, we should have dinner together. But also, I just love the process of cooking and unwinding and being with the people that I love and not having to talk about work in that time. I don't know if that's a vice or if it's just that just lets me unwind.
It seems like well-being. For me, it's lathe videos on YouTube. I could watch a lathe 24/7.
Wait, what's a lathe video?
No, it's like, you take a block of wood, you put it on a big spinning machine, and then you have this tool, and you scrape the block of wood and turn it into a bowl. It's how they make bowls and lamps and things. It's spinning. I'm going to send you a whole playlist, Carrie. What? This is lathe videos are extraordinarily meditative. And they put these construction where they know they can get anything out of me because they have me in a trance. The lathe is, it just, you see ribbons of wood being just stripped from this thing. And what emerges is this beautiful, precious shaped bowl or something. It's just an exuberant expression of wooded love. And
I'm missing out, Pete.
Totally missing out. That is it.
I need to open me some YouTube right now.
Lathe videos right now.
Lathe videos.
I maybe was a little too exuberant in my expression just now. I may regret that later in the edit.
What's so funny though is I just heard somebody else talking about this, that like their thing is watching videos of people vacuuming. Wait, that's a thing?
That's
like
a thing.
A thing?
It is not quite as big, but adjacent to the people's watching pressure washers. like cleaning Winnebagos, cleaning sidewalks, like watching high-speed jets of water strip filth from a surface is something people could watch for days. There's a real sort of cult of personality around power washing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, honestly, you could, I mean, if there's any observation I get out of this conversation, which has been wide-ranging, I think you could up your Vice game. You need to get into some dark corners of YouTube, I think would really serve you well. This is the big question.
Mm-hmm.
All the way from young, driven Carrie, 14 years old, getting her job at the interior design shop. Brian Loyola, all the way to Mission Partners. The connective tissue of your identity is really quite lovely. What is it that you would like to see written on your headstone?
She really loved you.
Oh, God, Carrie, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. You've been planning that. Like, you workshopped
No, I haven't.
Right? That was just right off the dome?
Think that.
Oh, Carrie, stop. That is precious. That has to be on your headstone.
Well, after everything you wrote at the beginning.
Very, very I would be absolutely remiss if I did not pitch. I don't know that the people who listen to this show are on the market for anything else that I want to talk about. But I would be remiss if I didn't pitch the most important thing you and I collaborate on, which is the Mission Partners podcast. You are just a fantastic host, and you could actually do worse than seeing once host of Mission Partners, the podcast, on your headstone. That's quite a legacy. I'll tell you that. So I am so grateful to be in any sort of partnership with you, but particularly around that podcast. I'm just honored to edit it and produce it every week. You're just magnificent.
It is what it is because of you.
It's online. That we can say that much. It makes it into the directories. But I think I just truly, truly value you as a human being. I think you're fantastic, and I can't tell you how honored I am that you decided to sit down and talk about all this stuff with me.
Oh my gosh! Oh.
Thank you.
What a special conversation, Pete. Thanks for inviting me on.
Most of us won't have the chance to rewrite our legacy in the dramatic fashion of Alfred Nobel. We won't wake up to read our own obituary and decide to start over. But every day, in smaller, quieter ways, we do get to revise the story. Carrie reminds me of that legacy isn't a destination. It's not something we arrive at or declare. It's something we live into, one decision, one conversation, one act of integrity at a time. And maybe, most importantly, it's not just about big moves. It's about living in alignment with what we say that matters. That's what Carrie calls more than words, and that's really sort of what this show is about too. Because here's the truth. Legacy isn't built in the spotlight. It's built out in the margins, in the way we show up for our kids, in how we speak when no one's watching, in the tiny, often invisible ways we move the world around us. So if you're wondering what your legacy might be someday, maybe start by asking, what story am I telling with my life right now? And is it one I'd be proud to leave behind? Because legacy isn't what we leave behind, it's how we show up while we're here. I'm Pete Wright, and this is Headstone. Did that feel natural? Did I seem like a complete doofus at any point?
Did we talk about death enough?
Oh yeah, no. That's the MacGuffin. The podcast doesn't have to be all about death.
Yeah,
it really doesn't have to be, because I think the whole point of the trick is that the show really is about a well-lived life. That's the trick. How do we connect the dots and demonstrate a well-lived life?